welcome back to the FanSpeak Network, where today we will react to everything that we saw this weekend in the National Football League and then look ahead to next week's two championship games. This is fanspeak.com, the Fanspeak YouTube channel. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And as we do every Monday, we're going to react to everything that we saw this weekend. And then, of course, look ahead to see who will be in the Super Bowl. JC, good morning. Start with you. How was your weekend, and what did you think of everything that happened in the National Football League?
I think Vegas is just too good at this. That's my honest thoughts. It's crazy. I mean, every game except for the Washington game, the spread was right on point. It was frustrating, and if it wasn't for my hockey bets, man, I'd been on full tilt this weekend. Was sitting real pretty after that KC game that all came crashing down. Ugly. Thought I had these games read right. I knew one of these dogs was going to win outright, but it was miserable. It was crappy. I guess the upside is at least, I think we got a little more intrigue in the conference games now. Who wants to see, yes, Buffalo KC is going to be a great game. But we all would have much rather have different teams in that one. And just disappointing overall from a football side and from a betting side. Really nothing positive to say. And I know, this is just a warm up because I know Tyler's has the same sentiment, but much stronger.
All right. Tyler, your thoughts on everything we saw this weekend?
This is the worst week of football all year. You're telling me teams outgained their opponents in 3 or 4 games and lost the game outright. That just doesn't happen outside of this week. This is the week from hell. That's plain and simple. I'm not going to sit here and just blabber on because I'm down too much money to fucking do it.
Yeah, and I hate to be reductive, but sometimes those preview shows get annoying because they say the same things every time, but it's like, win the turnover battle, right? Stop the run. And this weekend, the turnover battle was on full display. And JC,
one other thing I'm saying, and I've already wrote this down 1,000 times, and I'm going to get it tattooed on my arm so I know not to do it ever again. Whenever there's snow on the field, I am never betting the football game again. How many fumbles and just missed drop passes ruined those games yesterday?
And JC, you'll like this one, right? I saw a person who is a big tennis person, and they're a casual NFL fan, and they go, when they have to play in the snow like this, it'd be like if you played a Grand Slam for a full week, but then the final is on clay. Right, you play on hard. It's just like you completely change the surface of the game. And to your other point, JC, about how good Vegas is, and I kind of mention this to people because people, especially those who aren't super into sports, know that I do gambling, and they'll want to casually bet this weekend. They go, "Oh, you must have a lot of action this weekend," and I'm like, actually, for NBA playoffs are different, but the NFL playoffs to me are the toughest. These lines are dialed right in. And except for that Commanders game, doesn't it just feel like you're just playing a 3-hour hand of blackjack? There's so much randomness involved.
Mm-hmm.
Mahomes runs out at the last second for the 9.5, and I know that you had an 8.5, and that was, CLV finally matters there, or being patient with the dog, which is something that I always say, when Tyler and I talk about the show. Hey, I kind of like the dog here. Do you think they're going to take money? That's something we do. We know with more public money during the playoffs, that's more likely to happen. So if you do like a dog, sometimes it's good to wait, even off the early moves there. But let's dive in game by game and talk about what we saw. The Texans-Chiefs was just exactly what we expected from that game. It came right down to the end. Let's be fair, the Chiefs were probably the right side. I gave out the Texans. In my article, I gave out the Texans on here and on the wagering world. But I can't necessarily victory lap and say that, hey, I got that right. That could have easily gone either way. And that's where I got the really the 3-hour game of hand of blackjack, or it just felt like, 3-hour roll of the dice. It definitely could have gone either way. But JC, let's start with you. What are your takeaways from this Chiefs-Texans game? And anything that you saw in that game that you're going to use to help preview the game next weekend?
Not really. I mean, of all the games, this is definitely the one I have the least thoughts on. It was just a solid football game. I don't – of all the times we've seen the refs bail out the Chiefs, I don't think this is even in the top 10. I think pretty much all the calls they made were right. Just bad luck for Houston. I was a little surprised it came down to the wire like it did. And I mean, I was kind of thinking, I completely agree with you that it was like playing a 3-hour game of blackjack, just because you can't, with all these games, with the exception of Washington, you can't feel great about the side you bet on. I pushed, yes, I got this game by a point, but I'm not like, oh, I had this game so dialed in, I got lucky, right? And if you lost it, you got unlucky. I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I just think, once again, you don't bet against Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. That's kind of my preview for next week. Houston looked great. They looked a lot better than I thought they would. I think I would say this team has a lot to look ahead to and has a really good outlook in future years. But at the end of the day, they're still playing in the same conference with Lamar, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes. So I don't know. It doesn't really matter how good you get. I don't think this team's ever going to be better than those teams.
I definitely can see a path where that happens. Just that team being at full strength could help a lot. And they just need to shore things up on that offensive line. If they had a Detroit Lions like offensive line, I think they can do it. And they have 2 good tackles right now. They just have to address the interior. But where they're at, especially with Stroud still being on that rookie deal, I think they can address those issues. And I'm not ready to count them out for next year yet. I also think this is one of the best defenses in the NFL currently. So if they stay healthy, I think they've got a good chance to make noise and be a little better next year. Also, Stroud maybe learned a little bit, right? He was running around with porn stars and stuff all offseason last year. Maybe getting brought back to earth in the quote-unquote sophomore slump helps him out a bit. Tyler, your takeaways from the Chiefs and the Texans and your thoughts on the Texans for next season.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Texans were the better team. It's the only game I got right this week. They outgained them. They had 0 penalties, and somehow they lost the game. That is literally the summary of the weekend. None of these games literally made sense. You can't sit here and take anything from this game and use it for next week because they were outgained. They should have lost the game. So what are we going to sit here and say? Mahomes threw for 177 yards or right around that. 113 of them went to Travis Kelce. They were a one-man offense, and somehow they won the game. That sums up the weekend. We'll get into the other games, but that is literally the summarization of the weekend.
It's also the summary of the Chiefs season. Statistically, they haven't been good. As a fantasy team, they haven't been good. But watching that game, I just felt like they were going to win the whole time. When I was rooting for Houston, I was only rooting for the cover. I didn't think the money line was live at all. And I'll be curious to see where you land for next weekend, and we'll get into that. But I think I have an idea.
Flags like that, you bet on the Chiefs every time.
Yeah. It's just like the Lakers. Why do you think I hate the Lakers so much? And then their fans will act like it's not an unfair advantage. The Lakers have had the most free throws in the league for the last 9 years. And nobody wants to admit that hey, maybe the officials know what's going to get the better ratings. Regardless,
I don't buy that. I mean, I know there have been a few games where it absolutely came down to the officiating, but if we scrutinized.
Okay, so first of all, no game ever comes down to the officiating. But when we're going for checks and for example, we would say the Bills have a better wide receiving core. The Chiefs have a better running back. I'm just throwing stuff out there.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I just think you got to think, hey, when we're using our past data, they do have a tendency to get a very friendly whistle.
If you punch these numbers into a model after the game and said, project me a spread for this game that just happened, and you punched in Houston had 33 minutes to 26 of KC's time of possession. Houston had 336 yards to Kansas City's 212. They had 18 first downs to Kansas City's 14, and they ran 65 plays to their 50. The model is going to spit out Houston's a favorite.
Sure.
I'm won that
for
game.
Sure.
But that's where I say turnovers are so important because
they didn't turn the ball over.
No, they didn't spread.
Oh, excuse me on that one. I'm talking about the other games because it's every single team that lost got outgained, right?
Every team that won got outgained.
That won, got outgained.
Yeah. I mean, but I'm just saying from the standpoint of like any other game, there's like a close call at the end. People are like, oh wow, like that call, yeah. But when it happens in a Chiefs game, that's the main talking point.
Right. Yeah. Just like for me, I'm always going to harp on the officials of the Lakers because of what I saw in 2002 and how I'll never let that go. Okay. So, but I'm just saying.
Fair enough.
You have to factor that into your handicap. Anything more on that game, or do you want to move on to the biggest upset of the weekend?
We can jump into the next one.
Not only did the Commanders cover the 8.5 spread, they won outright. They put up 45 points on this vaunted Lions defense. And was it you guys I was messaging or my other buddy? I'm like, boy, how bad do the Vikings look now, right? Because I was trying to defend the Vikings after their week 18 loss and saying, well, this Detroit defense is really good. They can shut anyone down. It's just a tough defense to go against. Well, it turns out that Jaden Daniels and the Commanders just did fine against this vaunted Detroit Lions defense. So excellent win there for Washington. Now they're going to have to travel to Philadelphia. This will be the third time they played this year. And I'll tell you what, if you would have said the odds of an NFC North NFC championship versus an NFC East NFC championship, I would have put, NFC East at like plus 400 compared to what I'd have the NFC North at. So this was a surprise to me. I think it's a great story. I know that our fan speak compatriots, Meg and Andrew and Steve, are very excited that their favorite team turned things around. And as you see, I got my little Raiders in the background. It gives us hope, right? Because in the NBA, I know the Kings are never going to be good. In Major League Baseball, I know the A's are never going to be good. In the NFL, you really can turn things around quickly. And I think, the Texans that we just talked about, they did it 2 years ago. The Commanders did it this year. Feels like every year we get one of these stories, which I think is there's more hope for some of these moribund franchises. JC, start with you. What did you see in the Commanders' shocking win over the Detroit Lions?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think Washington would be able to move the ball like they did. I mean, that's really all it came down to. And the game itself, man, I mean, that pick six right there at the end of the second quarter, that was the difference in this game, right? Because the Lions were going to score on that drive, probably put up 6, at the very least 3, and instead they ended up giving 6 points. And I mean, it was downhill from there, right? I mean, that flips even to a field goal, drastically changed the game. I think Detroit ends up winning if they don't do that. But even if you don't want to point to just one play, you can't have 4 interceptions and expect to win the game. It sometimes happens with Goff, but still, I mean, just a poor performance in one of the most important games of his career. Yeah, I was really impressed by Washington. It was definitely, I mean, they played a great game, but Detroit did not give themselves a chance to win. They just made mistake after mistake. And kudos to Washington for taking advantage of it, right? Because you can look at the Green Bay-Philly game from the first round, and Philly constantly gave Green Bay opportunities to win that game, and they didn't capitalize. Washington did. I really had my reservations about this team, but they're legit. Kudos to them because they got a real shot to play in the Super Bowl. Never thought we'd say that, but it's just the way it is. And this team is just so impressive. And I feel bad for Detroit. I mean, what a great story. But, they couldn't get out of their own way.
Tyler, one of the reasons I like betting the NBA is sometimes I feel that people don't look at the whole teams and they just judge, well, this star player is better than the other star player, so I'll take this team. I'm almost feeling like that's how you should handicap the NFL. I mean, Jaden Daniels is better than Jared Goff, and at what other position group did the Commanders have an advantage? I mean, it was just wild. It almost just feels like we should just be betting these coaches and quarterbacks and not even bother with the rest.
They had the advantage of head coach because their head coach wasn't out there running dumbass plays down 10 points. Why are we running end-around passes with a wide receiver down 10 points? Like, this is – I said this last year. Like, I didn't think it would happen right here. But I said Dan Campbell was going to be the reason this team loses in the end. The dude can't get out of his own way. He gets into this big muscle man. I got to go for it on fourth down. Mantra lets his ego take control of the game. And all of a sudden, when they don't score at 50 points and the other team can score, this is what happens. So, I mean, it sucks for Detroit. I thought they had a real shot. They couldn't get out of their own goddamn way.
I also forgot to mention that, Goff had a fumble too. So, I mean, he just, you never want to point to one. No, because in two of these games, you can point to one player and say they're the reason the team lost. But straight up, Goff is the reason that this.
Yeah, I mean, if the Lions had held the Commanders to 24 points, we wouldn't be saying anything about Goff. They put up 31 points.
That's a good point.
But still, I mean, it's not
you knew you're going to have to score a lot of points to win this game.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, they shut down some pretty good offenses this year. Yeah,
I mean that was so impressive about Washington. Just that first half, like watching them, like I kept expecting, a 4-and-out or like a quick turnover. And Washington, man, they just continue to move the ball with ease. I was really surprised they were able to do that to Detroit.
Yeah. So, just shows once again. That's why, like, everyone's like, you might get Ben Johnson. I'm like, did he really do that great? Like, I don't know. I mean, I guess he made a limited quarterback, Jared Goff, into a top 10 guy. So I guess.
Yeah. I mean, granted that O-line is elite.
Yeah. But still, you don't get to bring the O-line with him.
That offense had 5 turnovers and they still scored 31. I mean, you got to give Ben Johnson some credit there.
All right.
Granted, the debate we had on this show
earlier this year and won the game too. So
against Houston,
yeah, no, that's true. But they also played a much worse team. We've had the debate many times on the show, though, Spread. Just because you're a good OC doesn't necessarily mean you should be in head coach.
Yeah, and that's what I'm worried about, dude. I'm worried about Mike McDaniels all over again. That we'll get all these cool looking plays and we won't get any wins. And me and you are just gonna be walking hand in hand to the draft party every year with these like ineffective OCs that aren't real leaders.
Hey. At least this coach will be smart enough to lose at the end of the year for you and not like the idiot you just had.
Well, also too, I mean, say what you want about Mike McDaniel. He's been to the playoffs 2 to 3 years, Spread. I know you would love to go to the playoffs.
Good point. That's a good point. You got me there. All right. We'll find out what happens. And, I got to be a negative Nancy today.
I'll trade you your guys' top 10 pick for that first round exit we get every year.
What are you talking about?
The Steelers' first round exit every year. Give me your top 10 pick you guys get almost every year. And you guys can have that first round. You guys can go get blown out by a top tier team in the AFC.
By KC. By their division rival.
Yeah. Go get blasted by the Chargers in the wild card round every year. Have fun.
Man,
I don't know who said it.
Right now, I'm like done watching the team by week 3. Bro, check my All Trails app. I got so many Sundays now. We get 4 or 5 miles in there. Oh, man.
I was listening to someone talk about the Chargers and kind of their outlook and how some people are down on Herbert. And it's like, no, this team has potential, which I completely agree with. And like, yeah, if they get themselves, put them in a position where maybe they got like a first round home game or they got like a home playoff game. I'm like, they're never going to get a home playoff game. Playing in that division, forget about it. Like you are set for a wild card slot every year is your ceiling.
Oh, the Raiders?
No, the Chargers, but obviously the Raiders would also fall into that category. Like that division is not winnable.
We'll see.
Tyler?
I mean, how many times did New England lose their division? Once, and it took a torn ACL from Brady?
Yep.
Like, come on.
Exactly.
It took a torn ACL, and they still almost won the division with Matt Castle.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember that guy's name. Get a good call back there, Tyler.
Yeah.
JC, let's talk about the Eagles. Who another one was CLV. I think it went down to 5.5 at some point. I know there was a ton of 6, but on Sunday it closed at 6.5. And that was the difference between a win and a push for a lot of people.
I cut you off for 1 second.
Yeah.
Just because this is going to go back to the likes of Houston and the Chargers. They have Super Bowl odds up for next year. I mean, these two teams probably make moves in the offseason. How far away are they really from these top-tier teams in the AFC? I don't think they're all that far. The Chargers are 25-1 and Houston's 30-1. Houston was 10-1 coming into this season because everyone wanted to paint him as a Super Bowl contender. The defense is built. They'll get Nico Collins back. Well, he'll be there. Tank Dell will be back more than likely. Diggs will be back. They might go out and get more pieces. The Chargers are going to go get another wide receiver, and their defense is pretty good. They can be up there with these likes of the Ravens, Buffalo, and the Chiefs.
The Chargers
I completely agree.
Again, I don't think the problem is talent. It's about teams you got to jump.
I mean, can you imagine if the Chargers get a couple of these stud wide receivers in the draft? Or, I mean, they don't even need T. Higgins, just anyone that's not Quentin Johnston.
Yeah, just a T. Higgins would be the thing because now he's your wide receiver 1. Lad's going to run your 2 routes. It's going to be really tough to cover him too. It'd be a really good offense.
I just second or third round jam each a wide receiver and running back.
We talk about Detroit's offensive line. Whose offensive line is probably closest to that in the AFC?
Yeah,
the Chargers.
I think the second year. I think Harbaugh's second year has a higher ceiling. I think than the Texans. We've kind of seen what they are, and they're really good. But they're not good enough to jump all those teams. I don't care who they add.
All right. Well, we'll disagree there, Tyler. I think those are both good looks. They're just easy fixes. Chargers
also next year.
And guards and centers you can draft in the 3rd, 4th round. It's not like you need a top 10 pick for Houston to address their issues. Their problems are in the middle of the line. Those guys don't get drafted high. I think a guard's been drafted in the 1st round.
And the Chargers' problem is they need a better running back and a better wide receiver 1/2.
And it's the best year.
And you could literally
both those positions are stacked.
Yeah, you could pick those off in free agency or in the draft. So I think they are in a prime spot to be right up there. Like, you're telling me that we can't roll into next year and how Houston was painted as the team that was going to swoop in and beat the likes of KC. Like, that'll probably be the Chargers next year.
There are 5, maybe 6 quarterbacks in the AFC that are better than CJ Stroud.
No, there's not.
Yes, there is.
In the AFC.
There's 4.
Yeah.
There's at
Josh
4.
Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. And then, technically, based on the conversation we're having, we're kind of saying Justin Herbert is at least better positioned than CJ Stroud.
I don't know about that.
And then what about your boy Bo Nix?
Like, you could pull hairs
better than CJ Stroud.
You could pull hairs with those two. We could sit here and argue Herbert's better. You can argue Stroud's better. I think they're pretty much neck and neck.
Sure. That's still 4 guys better.
I mean, that's the big 4, though.
And then you got to, I don't know. Never mind.
But, like, what happens to Burrow if T. Higgins leaves? What if Chase doesn't get the contract he wants and he leaves? Like, now one of those guys is irrelevant.
Burrow might not even be in Cincinnati next year.
Oh, he got a lot of money. He ain't going nowhere.
All right. Your guys' thoughts on the Rams and what they'll do this offseason? Start with you, JC.
I don't know, man. They got to get healthy, right? That'd be a huge improvement for them. I don't know the ins and out of their like O-line and D-line with there, but that core is solid. If you can get another good year out of Stafford, you got, Kyron Williams is a beast. You got great receivers. I don't know if Kupp was just injured and that's why he was kind of lacking this year. But either way, we know they draft well, so certainly can't count them out. I'm not rushing to bet any futures on them, but as long as McVay's there, they're a team you got to worry about in the NFC.
Yeah, Rams turn their defense around with 1 year, so I understand. When you talk about needing to tank and needing to lose games, the Rams didn't do that, and they've completely revamped their defense. So
and they didn't even have any picks.
What's
they
up?
didn't even have any bad.
This is their first year getting a first-round pick. They got an absolute stud, like a Micah Parsons level dude, and all their second and third round picks they hit on.
Yeah,
and they just bolstered that defense. It went from being old and slow to young athletic in one draft. And they were drafted in the middle. It's not like they had the number 2 pick. So I think they're a good argument against tanking and why you should always try.
I forgot I was listening to some former head coach talk, and he said that Sean McVay is probably the best coach in the league. Like, just, I mean, if you're talking like Mount Rushmore, not saying that regards, but just sheer talent. If you had to pick one guy for your team, he was saying it's Sean McVay. This guy's just different.
Can we both agree that the snow bailed the Eagles out yesterday? If that game's on a clear field, they're scoring on that last drive.
Yeah, that's. I think also too the difference, right? It kind of no, because
every single one of those Philly defensive players were huffing and puffing on that last drive. They were so dead. They got pressure on one play, and it was because the dude was unblocked. They couldn't get no pressure the rest of the game, and he was going to walk down that field and score.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing too was right in those conditions. It kind of comes down to the run game, and as great as Kyron is. Saquon's better, and you also had to worry about
You're telling me that a running back took 316 carries this year, and it took every 65 carries for him to fumble, but he fumbled twice yesterday.
Yeah.
That's why I hate snow football.
I was also mad because I didn't I almost bet the second half under, although I don't know if it ended up hitting. Never mind.
Yeah, and Tyler, to your point, it's so funny because everyone in analytics always talks EPA. EPA should be passing every down. But then when we have to play outdoors in January, you have to be able to run the ball. And it's just so crazy how, everyone wants to pass. Well, what do you do when it's snowing and your season's on the line?
Right.
I agree with you, man. I think the Rams could have won if they played that in LA or if it was played in the Dome.
And I mean, because at the end of the game, they were running bootleg after bootleg, and it's just either Jalen's going to take off or he just dumped it off, and they were just picking up 5 yards every time.
He fucking sucks, too. I can't stand him.
Who?
He is a terrible quarterback.
Who?
Jalen Hurts.
Why do you say
he's
that?
He's so beat up right now.
He's thrown for maybe 250 yards in his 2 playoff games combined.
Yeah.
Saquon
like you said, they're playing in the snow. There was no reason not to just hand it off every single play.
This will be, if they win the Super Bowl, this is equivalent to like when Baltimore won with Trent.
Stop it!
Yes.
Stop it!
Yeah, no,
he is absolutely terrible.
No, you're doing that thing that they did to Baker. You're totally judging it. He's totally playing hurt. If this was week 11, he wouldn't have been out there.
He hasn't had a good passing game since he played Pittsburgh and
Okay, yeah, I'm looking at this. These are really bad.
Come on,
looking at his passing yards.
There's 2 running backs in that backfield every game.
Oh, this is really bad.
Yeah, stop it. He's not a good quarterback.
We can't say that though. You don't say that. No. He's still, yeah.
JC, let's talk about the main event of the evening. Once again, it just felt like a 3-hour hand of blackjack because it was just okay. I remember I took the Bills and I said, "Hey, I just got a feeling I can't victory lap this." It was just a coin flip, and I happened to be on the right side.
For sure, the only people that can victory lap this weekend are the people who bet Washington. That's it.
Yeah, or let's just say you tease the Bills up to 7.5. You can be like, "Yeah, that's a good pick, right?"
But everyone does a good pick. Everyone knows it's going to be a tight game. Like, you're not – it doesn't take it – you look at it – and even if you don't know the game, you look at a 1-point spread, you tease it to 7. It's probably a good call.
Yeah, you're right. All right, break down the game for me. What did you see, JC?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was weird just as far as – I mean, like, it was what we knew it was going to be. Maybe a little bit lower scoring. But, again, weather came in effect a little bit. And this is what I don't get, and this might just be coming from a guy who's never had an elite quarterback. It's just crazy that – opening drive, every time these guys look great. And I know it's because you got scripted plays. It always goes well. And then at the end of the game, too, these guys, when they got to do a 2-minute drill, they look elite. And then everything in the middle is just kind of so-so. Like, the way Lamar marched downfield on that last drive was so impressive. And it's just like, why couldn't you do that earlier in the game? Crazy game. Could have gone either way. Mark Andrews, I hope they probably just left him in Buffalo. That man can never show his face again in Baltimore. And what's crazy is, like, this was the type of game where both teams needed to get over the hump. Like, both franchises needed this win. And, we knew the losing team was going to have a lot to say about their quarterback. But they lost in such a way that you got nothing against Lamar. This game came down to Mark Andrews. I mean, a fumble and a hand and a little dink pass that hit him in the hands, right? Like sometimes, bomb downfield, be like, oh, I could have caught that. It's like, no, you don't really understand how that ball's coming off. That ball couldn't have been any more catchable. And
I'm all fine losing bets when my team loses. Like they lose the game, they lose it like perfectly
like
fine.
Detroit.
The worst team. When I lose because some dude's making millions of dollars and he can't catch a fucking football and that's his job and it hits him in the chest. Trump's on my TV right now getting inaugurated. His first thing he should do is just give Mark Andrews to like the Middle East. Just send him away.
Yeah. No, I mean, like I said, like that any scenario you could have created, there was nothing difficult about that pass.
And Lamar took all the blame in the post-game press conference. Mark Andrews should get all the blame. They should have ripped that Baltimore jersey off that man. He should never be allowed to put it back on.
But I mean, I will say, I think that's good of Lamar because he certainly didn't play his best game. And it was definitely on him. And it was definitely on him.
When it was on his shoulders to get it down there, he got it down there and he hit his receiver in the chest to tie the game, and his receiver dropped it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was so pissed too because this would have fixed my weekend. Baltimore would have won, and then that happened.
And I don't know how we agree on this, but I think Baltimore had the better shot at beating KC because now I think KC's going to just do what they do to Buffalo.
Absolutely.
Cool, Buffalo beat them in the regular season when their entire roster was hurt and they didn't give a shit. Good luck this week.
For sure. I mean, and that's why I bet on Baltimore in this game ultimately was their defense. And if you said they'd held Buffalo to 27, I still felt good about that bet.
Look at Josh Allen's stat line, and it'll make you want to punch a hole in your computer when you see that Baltimore lost this game.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. 20 rushing yards, like on top of that, 16 for 22 with 127 yards, 20 rushing yards from a man that's done like 50 yards every game this season.
Unbelievable.
And this is what I said too when Buffalo played Kansas City in the regular season. Kansas City, they almost let Buffalo win in the regular season. They don't care. They don't bring their best. Of course they want to win because, you got to win football games. But, they save it for the playoffs, man. And now Buffalo's going to go to Arrowhead and get blown out. I'm not going to blow out. It'll be a good game. It'll be fun to watch. But whatever happens is KC's going to win.
You're not beating KC throwing the ball to Khalil Shakir. It's just not happening.
No. Absolutely not. Also, while we're just bitching, I had 3 props missed by a yard. That was just added insult to injury this weekend.
Sometimes I think we're being a little too reductive on Mark Andrews. The game never comes down to one play.
It literally did.
It literally did. What are you talking about?
What if they don't fumble earlier? What if they score earlier in the game? What if they're ahead 35?
He fumbled it on
that point. There's a million different things that lead to the outcome of a game. It's not just one play. If you think that one play makes a whole game, then why don't they just only play one play?
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
That's the reason they didn't tie the game. They wouldn't even necessarily have won. There was still a minute 30 left on the clock. You don't think Allen could get to them down there for a field goal?
Okay,
so
but
there was many problems.
Not when he's throwing 127 yards through 4 quarters.
The other 2-point conversion. Okay, Baltimore. They run the ball 3 times down the field and they get a touchdown. Why didn't they line up? Why did they throw the fucking ball? It doesn't just come down to one play. Lamar fumbled earlier in the game. Was it his fault? No, it was probably the center's fault.
Actually, that was Mark Andrews.
That had a huge impact on the game too. So to just say that one play changed the whole course of the game, that's crazy to me.
And I blame Mark Andrews for the INT Lamar threw as well.
Yeah. Didn't run his route, and then he gets the ball punched out. It is literally all on Mark Andrews.
It's not all on one player.
Spread, I understand what you're saying, but still, at the end of the day, Mark Andrews catches that football as he's paid.
Spread, if you go to work.
Yeah, then Josh Allen drives down and they kick a field goal and they still win. Now what do you say? They still had a minute 30 left.
If you go to work and you load the truck perfect, like it's loaded to the perfect, like exactly how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then the new kid comes in and just destroys it. Is it his fault or is it everyone's fault? It's his fault, right?
I mean, sure, we can say he wasn't trained properly. Someone should have checked. We can always point to other things, but at the end of the day, it's his fault.
It's 100% Mark Andrews' fault.
All right, we can disagree on that. I made my point. Let us move on to next weekend, and we got 2 games on the docket. JC, I'll start with you. Eagles, Commanders. Yep. Eagles -5.5. I wrote it up this morning, and I am prone to change my mind, but this was my original thoughts. I think the +5.5. I also kind of like the over. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I jumped on that 5 when it dropped, went down to 4.5. Now it's back up to 5.5. Now it's back down to 5. So it'll be interesting. I mean,
I still got 5.5 offshore.
I mean, there are some. I mean, like DraftKings, you can get 5.5, but like MGM, it's 5. So sure, you can shop around. But I guess we're not going to see too much movement. I wasn't really sure what the public was going to think. I love Washington. Philly easily could have lost both those games. They're not playing as dominant these playoffs as I thought they were. The 2 games they played this year were close. So I'm not running to the Washington money line, but I expect another close game. 5 points is plenty. You look at how this week went, I absolutely expect to cover, if not an outright win. Honestly, the only reason I'm not running the money line is I just can't picture the Washington Commanders in the Super Bowl. This is really all it is. I also have futures on the Eagles. I also just think in a situation like this, division rivals, Philly's in their element. They've been here plenty of times. Very brand new for Washington. I just don't really see an outright win for Washington, but I love the cover. I think 5.5 is too many. If it goes up to 6, I might bet it again. But should be another great game. Say what?
Do you think there's a chance? I almost want to just wait. I want to get 6.5 again. That was the difference last week.
For sure. I mean, yeah, I'll definitely. It's obviously very early, so we'll kind of see what happens. But I thought it was going to get bet down, like I said initially it was. So I just
look at the line in the other game. There's a reason why it's not going to 6.
What, teasers?
Yeah, you bump that up to 6, you are getting obliterated with teasers.
Yeah,
good point.
That's true.
All right, Tyler, where are you landing on that game? And of course, we'll be talking about these again tomorrow more in depth. But just your early thoughts and where do you think the line will go? If I like the Commanders, should I wait? Should I hit? Is the 5.5 the best I'm going to get? What do you think, Tyler?
I think it'll go up. My personal interest here would be rather see Jaden Daniels win. I'd love to see a rookie quarterback make the whole run, get there. But he would be the first one to ever do it. Is he just going to be the best rookie quarterback ever? Because that's what he would be labeled as if he goes to the Super Bowl. I think the kid's a stud.
No, Dan Marino did it.
Did he go to the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Okay, so he'd be the second rookie quarterback to do it.
And then didn't Mahomes? It just wasn't his first year.
Well, yeah, it was his second. No, different. He lost the AFC Championship game his first start.
Well, okay.
It just smells like another game where Philly's going to look like shit, and Barkley's going to carry them to a victory. His 2 games versus Washington this year: 26 for 146 and 2, 29 for 150 and 2. He played the Rams earlier this year, and he gouged them for 200 yards. That was the big worry. We did it again, and the Rams still had a shot. Maybe Washington has a shot here, but I don't know. I'll probably end up on Philly somehow. I think maybe a Philly KC parlay. That'll probably be plus money.
Man, I don't like it because I think there's a real chance Washington wins outright again. I mean, just looking at
I think there's a real chance. But I can't bring myself to bet a rookie quarterback to win this game.
For sure. But I'm just saying that's why I don't want
to get smoked. I'll be pissed.
Yeah, for sure. What's crazy is Saquon's over-under is 129.5.
He's probably going over.
Yeah, probably. But still, man. Yeah. Jeez. I didn't realize this is his game log. 205, 119, 167, 150.
And he's going to get 20-plus carries.
In Washington.
And you know he's good for a 50 to 60-yard touchdown run every game.
Longest rush. Longest rush is 20 yards.
Yeah, over.
Which he has hit in 8 of his last 10, and even the ones he didn't, it was like 18 and 17. So like right there.
What was his Washington longs?
68.
Yeah, see, we're getting a big run from this guy on Sunday. Like, I hope it's a good game, but I have my doubts.
I don't know, man. I mean, Washington just played them well twice.
That second game I don't count because Hurts went out and that was Kenny Pickett.
You're right. That's a good point. But still, I mean, I don't know. I also don't know what it's like. I mean, what is Jay Daniel's psyche like at this point? I mean, is he now comfortable in the playoffs?
And what Hurts' health? Like you guys said, this version of Hurts is not the guy that I'm touting as the top guy. I mean, normal Hurts doesn't take that safety.
No, it's really funny you say that, spread, because initially, like when the Philly game was ending, I was thinking, I'm like, if this line is at like 3, I'm not going to know what I'm going to do because you got to question how healthy Hurts is. But at 5, I was like, that's great. I like it if he's healthy, and if he's not, it makes it that much easier.
Yeah. I agree. I'm leaning towards taking the points. I'm just trying to decide if I should be patient and I'll get a better number.
I think with what we've seen overnight, I don't think you're gonna lose. I don't think it's good.
I mean, the public seems to love Philadelphia. Maybe just a lot of people in Philadelphia gamble more.
Just think about this too. Like if you just don't just run to they beat Detroit. They only beat Tampa by 3. They fought with Trey Lance and these guys. They only beat Atlanta in overtime. They almost lost to the Saints with Spencer Rattler starting a 2-point conversion, kept them from losing that game. Then they had this outlier of a game where they blow out Detroit. Now we're all crowning them.
No, I mean, honestly, though, for me, the biggest thing is that they're playing a division rival. If they're playing LA, I would really think twice about it. But the fact that they've been playing well and now they get a division rival, that's why I like the 5 so much.
All right, let's move on to Buffalo and Kansas City. I mean, I'm just going to take the Chiefs.
Yeah, it's just plain and simple. There's no breakdown here. You bet the Chiefs.
Yep. I'm gonna wait. The reason I didn't bet it last night, I'm just curious to see if I can get a little bit better number on the money line. But again, it's like Chiefs as an underdog, Chiefs off a bye, Chiefs in the playoffs.
Do you have them as the dog? I have them as a favorite offshore.
No, that's what I'm saying. But I didn't want the minus 125, minus 130. I'm gonna wait and see if I can get like a 110 or a 115.
Do you think the Bills will take money? I think the Chiefs will take money.
I just don't think it's gonna move much. So I'll just see what happens because I agree.
I think minus 124. I don't think I'm going to get better.
I think there's some people who are going to think like the Bills are due or it's their year.
And they beat them earlier in the regular season. Like this is a sportsbook's dream. They know people are going to run to bet Buffalo.
Yeah,
that's true.
And
we'll give a full breakdown of this game tomorrow. But I mean, to me, this one's easier. If I can only bet one of these games, I would rather have the Chiefs than the Commanders.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things. It's one of those bets where you make it, and if you do lose, it's kind of a win-win. Number one, you throw your hands up. You knew you were on the smart side. But secondly, then you don't got KC in the Super Bowl. So we got something refreshing.
Then we know the NFC is winning because Buffalo can't win a Super Bowl.
I love KC. I got no problem with KC. I love Patrick Mahomes. That's my guy. I love anybody who's got a chance of dethroning Tom Brady as the GOAT. But I'm more talking to everyone else because I know everyone else.
If he wins it this year, I think
good to know you love Joe Montana.
If he wins it this year, he is the GOAT, I think. What would that be, 5 and 8 years?
I mean, okay, yes, but okay, hypothetically, he doesn't do anything else. I don't know if he gets that crown.
That would still be the best stretch we've ever seen from a quarterback. Like, Brady did his thing, but this dude won 5 and 8 years, and the farthest he fell backwards was the AFC Championship game.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, I completely agree. And, yeah, I'll argue it. But it's, and I don't think there's no way he obviously regresses heavily.
He would also have the Michael Jordan undefeated record in the Super Bowl to go with his winning thing. So that would bump him up some more.
For sure.
Yeah. I think we lost our host.
It's tough. Bad time to lose them, too.
Did you look at any props for the games yet? These rushing props in the KC game seem really low.
Really? I just looked at Barkley. What's Allen down to? What are both quarterbacks down to?
Allen's 48.5. Mahomes is 24.5.
Mahomes was one. I needed one more rushing yard out of Mahomes to get my number.
I was in the same boat with Lamar, and he didn't have a scripted run the entire game.
Yep. Yep. And what's his name? Cade put out a play on LA's tight end at halftime. Jumped on that, missed it by a yard.
All right, guys. Any final thoughts on the divisional round weekend?
Nope, that's it for me.
Yeah.
JC, I was going to message you over under 45 minutes, and we still went 45 minutes. I can't believe it. I thought this show was going to be so quick.
It aligns perfectly with this weekend spread. Right on the money.
It was just like last week, right? When you thought we were going to be quicker. And
yeah, exactly.
We're not. All right. Okay. So Tyler and I are going to be back tomorrow with Jamie, and we'll be more in depth with our picks. This is just kind of our initial reaction, our early thoughts. This is fanspeak.com. Please subscribe to the channel. Check out the website. There's so much going on over there, fanspeak.com. All right, JC, since you're here, we're going to have you get us out of here. What do you got for the people?
If you can count your money, work harder.